This is episode 46 of Road Noise. Should you follow your dreams? I'll give you 7 things to keep in mind. Hello and welcome again to another episode of Road Noise Life 1 Mile at a Time. I'm your host, Michael Blackston. If you're hearing the sound of a rumble under my voice, that's just the sound of the road, hence the reason I call it Road Noise. And you're sitting in the passenger seat alongside me, learning to live life 1 mile at a time as I commute to and from my work all over the southeastern United States. This morning I'm on my way to Oxford, Alabama to complete a job that I had to stop in the middle of and reschedule last week. So I'm doing that. It's 8:45 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday morning as this is recorded, and I want to talk to you about following your dreams. This kind of came to me all of a sudden last night. I was thinking, I'm going to have a commute. It's going to be Wednesday, so I need to go ahead and get something recorded and edited down and ready to release on Friday. And I wasn't sure really what I wanted to talk about. I have a list of stuff here in the car that I can kind of go by, but I wasn't really feeling anything that was on there at this point. And I said, what do I really want to talk about that's going to be beneficial to some people and also be a little bit of me in it? And it just kind of struck me all of a sudden to talk about living your dream, or should you even dare to follow your dreams? I have some acquaintances and very close friends as well who have asked me in the past, did I follow my dream? Should I, meaning they, follow their dreams, or are dreams just fantasies? Things that they would like to happen, but they need to live in the real world and just kind of take what they can get. And I'm going to give you my answer, the yes or no, kind of in the sum up at the end of this episode. But I want to go a little bit into my story as far as me following my dreams, and then I want to give you 7 kind of bullet points for you to keep in the back of your mind when and if you decide that you're just going to go for it and follow your dreams. So if you are a dreamer, a lot of creative types like me are, if you're a dreamer and you have this idea of what your perfect reality would be, and you just don't know whether or not to pull that trigger, to go for it, to do some, frankly, sacrificing in your life to get where you want to go, then listen to this episode, and I think you may be pleasantly encouraged by the end of it. So like I said before, most of us have at least some idea of what our perfect life would be as far as following our dreams, your dream job, your dream living, what you'd like to accomplish with your life, your dreams. And you hear there are 2 different types of people. You hear it all the time between a debate between the 2 types of people. You've got people who say I'm just a realist. I know what the real world is like, and you should just go take care of your business, do what you have to do, and do not worry about your dreams. Pipe dreams don't get you anywhere. Especially artists hear this all the time. I have one artist that I have in mind who has told me in the past that she has these dreams but has been told, forget about them, be realistic, and you'll be better in life and happier. And I'm not going to agree with that. And I feel for this artist because she, I believe, feels a little bit trapped. And she's young and just getting started in her life, and I hope she gets a chance to listen to this episode and maybe get some encouragement. You're always going to have those naysayers. First of all, if you're the type of person who is considering following your dreams, understand when you tell people what they are, half, if not more of them, may be a naysayer. Usually, those naysayers are people who either didn't have the courage to follow their dreams, or people who did and failed, and then they had a sour taste in their mouth about it, and they didn't get up off the mat. When you get knocked down, you get back up. Those people just got knocked down maybe once, maybe twice, but just did not have the courage or the stamina to keep getting back up and going for it. And so they decided, you know what, this isn't for me, and because I don't think it's for me, I don't think it's for anybody. There are a lot of those people out there, and you're going to have to deal with them if you're going to attempt to follow your dreams. So, I interrupted myself thinking back a few seconds ago, a couple of minutes ago actually, when I said there are two types of people. I said there are the people who are realistic, but I didn't tell you the other type. The other type are the dreamers, the people who say, I have this goal, I have these dreams and wishes and hopes for my future that may seem crazy to you or to anybody else, but I believe I can do them. That's the other type of person, so I didn't want to leave that out. So what do you do? First, let me tell you my story. I started living one of my dreams later in life, and I'm wishing that I had realized what I wanted to do and what I could do in my situation in order to follow one of my dreams earlier on, and I'd be in a much better position than I am now. But then again, I don't believe in fretting over the past, because it's always the things of the past that have molded and shaped who you are today. And I may not be the same person. I may not be as successful as I believe myself to be, even though I'm far from rich. I do what I love to do, or one of the things I love to do, and it's allowed me to open up doors into my other dreams. And I wish I'd done it earlier. So I wish I had had something like this encouragement earlier. I have always been the type of artist who had my hands in all sorts of projects. Too many irons and too many fires. I've said it time and again, I think, on this podcast. And focus has been an issue, and because of that, I kind of scrambled around for years with different ideas of what I wanted my dream to be. I went from, in fact, I have an episode, one of the very first episode, it may be 2 or 3, I'm not sure. One of the earliest episodes of this podcast was called 40 Years of Dreaming. And if you want to hear the entire breakdown of how my life from childhood all the way up into what I do now, how that kind of played out as far as all of my different hopes and dreams over the years, you'll see how I went all over the spectrum, just with idea after idea of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. And a lot of the time, well, all of the times, my situation, my circumstances dictated what I was able to do, because I've always kind of kept a clear head about things. And so I finally settled on being my own boss. I realized that a lot of my dreams kind of fell under that umbrella, that I would be able to maybe focus or live out some of the things that I wanted to do, because there were so many different ones. Maybe that umbrella of being my own boss would allow me the freedom to do some of those things, and it has. I've wanted to be an actor. At first, I wanted to be on TV in movies when I was really early. I wanted to go through that route. And I knew I was going to have to pay dues. I knew that there would be a lot of work involved. I knew how many people were vying for those same roles that I would be. And at the time, this was before I got married. My wife and I, when we were dating, we both wanted to do this. We hadn't had any kids or anything like that. We were still dating, and we decided this was kind of a route we wanted to take together. Because of our strong Christian and conservative beliefs, and the fact that, right or wrong, I'm not judging anything, but those beliefs contradicted with a lot of the stances that Hollywood takes, we decided that that was not the route we wanted to go, even though we really wanted to try it. We wanted to do it. We were going to work into getting an agent, and we were going to work into getting extra roles and stuff in movies. And who knows? I mean, had we been doing this for the entire 20 years that we've been married, who knows where we'd be right now? Where we live is starting to become one of the big hubs for some of the most popular television shows and movies to be made. The Southeast Atlanta area. We live an hour and a half from Atlanta, and that would be a fairly easy commute for us if we wanted to live that kind of lifestyle. Since then, we've had children, and that has all changed, and that changed a long time ago. But I'm just saying all that to say that that's one of the things that we wanted to do, but our circumstances dictated that we needed to kind of change direction. And there's just been a whole number of things, and I finally settled on being my own boss. I found the job in etching. I realized I could do this and would love to do this for the rest of my life, and saw the opportunity to create a business of my own, and so I did. And so I'm coming to you with the experience of having finally learned to what it would take to chase that dream, to get that dream, and then maintain that dream. So before I do my finalization answer that goes a little bit more into detail at the end of the episode, I think you can tell by now I believe in chasing your dream. I believe that it is possible for you if you're willing to put in the work, and if you're willing to put in or have the understanding of a few things that I want you to keep in mind. I listed 7 of them. I really think these things are things you've got to be aware of as you're going into it, or you may find yourself into some trouble. So the first thing is have a clear understanding of what your dreams are so that you can focus on something. That was part of my problem from the start. It's always been part of my problem. Let's give you a visual analysis of a gun shooting. If you shoot at a single target, a shotgun, you may hit the target with something, but it's going to be all spread out. All of your projectiles are just going to go in all kind of different directions. If you shoot a rifle and you focus through the scope on one point of the target with a steady hand and determination, and you keep shooting, it won't be long before you'll hit that target because you're focused. You kind of get what I'm saying? You're more spread out if you don't have a focus, and you're not as likely to hit the target in a bullseye effort. You might hit it here and there a little bit, but you're not really going to get the focused effort that you will if you have a scope of your life and where you want to go with it. So I hope that analogy makes sense. So have a clear understanding of what your dream is as you set off on this journey. Know what it is you're going to do so that you are able to focus on it. Next, once you figure that out, you need to have a game plan. It's not a good thing if you have a good job to just say, okay, I quit today. Now, what do I do? There have been people who have quit their job and moved on and done really well, but those people usually, almost every time, had a focus. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They made a game plan before they quit. This actually happened to me, but it wasn't just a dead quit and then figure it out. I had a game plan. Once I started the etching company, I knew that I wanted to make my own company. So I figured out that I wanted to travel. I realized there was a niche. I even made a few phone calls and said, if you had a guy who would actually come to you to etch these stones instead of you having to have them done in Elberton and you cut the check for it before you even see what it looks like, how would it be if that etcher came to you and you didn't cut a check until you saw the finished product? I mean, I gave you a date. I could be there. That way you could give your customers a date. Well, they liked that. I did a little market research. I made a game plan around it before I started doing it. Then I asked the boss I was working for, the lady I was working for, I said, I'd like to do this on the weekends as long as I don't mess with any of your customers and I go out of kind of your jurisdiction area. Would that be okay with you? And she agreed. So I started doing it on the weekend while I still had my job. I didn't just quit the job and then start. I started building a business. To the point, in fact, that I had one customer who was a very large customer who was actually in Elberton where I was working and was this other person's customer. And he wanted me to come do some work for him. And I told him I can't do that and work for her at the same time because she's your customer or you're her customer. And, you know, she's made it clear that I could not work for her and go do work for one of her customers. So I told him that in order for me to do that, he'd have to make sure I had enough to be on my own full time. He said he thought he did, and then I quit and started working. So there was a progress. There was a process that I went through as I had a game plan and began to work that toward my goal. So if you're trying to decide whether or not to go fulfill your dreams, chase after that dream you've always had, make sure you have a game plan in place and a way to keep yourself taken care of and your family. And I've got all that coming up in just a little bit. I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. Next, realize that dreams can and often do change. My dreams, before I realized the umbrella of being my own boss, they were focused, but they changed fairly rapidly because as a creative person and someone who deals in all sorts of different types of arts, there's a lot of things that I could see myself doing that I love to do. Now, my number one thing, if you were to ask me today, okay, Michael, you win the lottery, money is not an object. You get to quit your work and you get to choose what you're going to pursue, and money's not an issue. That pursuit, we would probably move to New York and I would pursue a career on the Broadway stage. That would be my dream. But I have a wife and a 12-year-old son and a 3.5-year-old daughter. I can't just quit my job and go do that. I've got to be able to take care of them. And so when I realized what my umbrella focus would be, I can still have the stage because my love is not making money and winning Tony Awards. My love is having a stage to perform on. And I have that in Elberton. And because I work for myself, I have the freedom to do what I want to do with that. Now, I am my own boss, and so I've got schedules to keep, and so I am limited to how many shows I can do every year. But I am not unable to do a show if I want to. I have the option. And so that all fell kind of under the umbrella. But it wasn't always theater. Like I said before, I wanted to act. Then I realized I love the stage. I would love to be an artist. Right now, I am absolutely in love with writing. And I'm novelizing the play that I wrote. One of the plays that I wrote. So there are any number of things that could be my dream, and I would be willing to chase any of them given the right opportunities. Remember that your dreams can and may change, so just be aware of that. Next, you're probably going to be on your own. Most of us have people who support us, but then when your back is turned, they're telling you what a dreamer you are, or telling each other what a dreamer you are, how it'll never work. You don't need to hear that, you don't need to listen to that, and you need to understand that while you may have some support, and if you have a lot of support, then bless you, that's fantastic, but you may have no support. You may be on your own with this. And so you need to learn to be a loner when it comes to living your dream if it's something that you don't have a whole lot of support. Even if you have a little bit of support. My wife supports me in most of the things I do, but because she knows she married a dreamer, she's used to my dreams changing. She's used to my ideas of what I would like to do now changing. And so a lot of times when I come to her with excitement and a brand new prospect of something I'm thinking about creating, she's not unsupportive, but she doesn't just jump up and down and raise banners to my next new great idea because she's used to hearing it. She supports me, but she doesn't go crazy about it. And sometimes to me it feels like a lack of support. I know it's not, but it feels that way to me because she and I are different when it comes to creation. She is a creative person, but in different avenues, and so she doesn't quite get my ways of doing things and my ways of thinking. So sometimes it feels like I'm quite alone. A lot of my family and friends around me are used to Michael's harebrained creative ideas, the dreams that I chase, and they're used to it, and so I'll tell them about it, and in my mind I'm expecting everybody to give me hugs and high fives and say, great, I can't wait. And sometimes they do, but sometimes they go, oh, good. And that's about it. So you need to be prepared that you could be alone in this, and that's okay. It's completely your journey. And so if you are alone in this, don't fret about it. Now, family welfare comes first. And I'm going to tie this into being alone, because sometimes you're alone in it as far as the excitement for your dream, but you are not alone in it in reality of what your responsibilities are at home. I have a family. I have a wife and 2 kids. They come first, above and beyond my dreams. Now, I'm now living my dream. I'm working for myself. But if something happened and the etching business collapsed and I could not make a go of something else, which I would try to do first, but if I could not, if I had to go flip burgers at McDonald's for a while and put my dreams on hold to make sure that they were taken care of, I absolutely would do that, because my family comes first. So although you are alone in your adventure, or you may be alone in your adventure, mentally, physically, if you do have family, then you're not really technically alone. And you've got to take them into consideration. So please do not deny the needs of your family as far as your journey goes. Now, friends is a different story. If you've got true friends, then they'll understand that you're doing this for yourself, and they will want to support you in that. But people who rely on you for living, you have that responsibility. Next, number 6, you'll need a thick skin. Any endeavor is going to have, like I said at the top of this, they're naysayers. But you got to understand that when you're trying to live a dream, you are basically up for judgment from the people that you're trying to get to notice you. So for instance, if you're a writer, get ready to submit your manuscripts and get rejections. There are very few writers that publish their first time. Most of the time, they get rejected. And sometimes those rejections can be constructive, and depending on the editor or whoever read your manuscript, sometimes they can be downright cruel. Stephen King used to keep a peg sticking out of the wall or on his desk or something. It was a nail. I think he'd driven it into a board or something. And his rejection letters would be slammed onto that nail and pierced with that nail. And it was kind of his visual way of dealing with rejection, knowing that there's another one more closer to being accepted. And that could be anything from rejection from publishers if you're a writer, to hearing the fated word next on your audition if you're trying out for a role. Anything that is your dream, and this doesn't have to be creative and artistic, anything that is your dream is up for evaluation, and it's not likely that the rainbows and the glitter and everything is going to fall. The parade is not going to be in your honor on the first time. You're going to get that eventually, hopefully, but it's not likely to happen the first time, second time, third time. Who knows? Just be prepared to have a thick skin. And if you don't have it now, you will develop one. And then lastly, number 7, you'll need to be persistent. And I think this is key. This is the biggest thing as far as finding success once you've determined what your dream is and you're going for it. You got to be persistent. Don't be one of those people that gets knocked down on the mat and can't get back up, so that you turn into one of those naysayers that you didn't want to hear from in the first place. Don't be that person. If you have a dream and you decide to set out on that journey, when you trip up over the roots that the world is going to put at your feet, when you're knocked down on the mat, all of those great visuals that we like to hear when we talk about life's journeys, get back up. Yeah, you may have some scuffed knees, but the thicker your skin, the less scuffed you'll get, the more you'll be able to tread on. And each time you are knocked down, that is a learning experience. It's something to take a positive away from. What got me knocked down? How do I learn from that experience and better myself for the next go-round? You got to be persistent and never, ever, ever give up. If you give up on a dream, let it be because you realized there was something else you wanted to go for. Don't do it because you don't feel like you can. Don't give up, because you don't feel like you can make that particular dream come true. Don't change dreams or directions of your chasing your dreams just because you feel like you failed at one, so you need to do another. If you have something you believe will work and you know in your heart you can do it, go for it. So let me recap those one more time. Number one, have a clear understanding of what your dreams are. That way you can focus and have a better shot of hitting your target. Number two, have a game plan. Number three, realize that dreams can and often do change. Number four, you're probably going to be on your own, at least mentally. Number five, physically, you may not be on your own, so understand that family welfare comes first. Number six, you're going to need to develop a thick skin. And number seven, you absolutely need to be persistent. Persistence is key to success. So after all of that, what is my final summation? My final summation is yes, absolutely, chase your dreams. But don't do it without some preparation, planning, understanding what you're getting into. If you know how hard it's going to be and are willing to do it anyway, then that is the dream you need to go for. I once heard a preacher tell the congregation a story about a young man, a young boy from his congregation, a teenager, who had come to him and said, "Pastor, I believe I've been called to preach." And the preacher said, "Okay, well, I don't think so. Go home and think about it and come back to me later." The next week, the young man came up to that pastor and said, "Pastor, I've been praying about this. I have been called to preach." And the pastor of the church said, "No, I don't think you've been called to preach. Go pray about it some more." The very next Sunday, that young man came up to the preacher and said, "Pastor, I love you. I respect you. But I prayed about this, and there's nothing you can do to talk me out of becoming a preacher. I've been called to preach. I know what goes into it. I know how difficult it can be. I know all of the work that goes into it, and I know there's a lot more I have to learn about it that I don't realize yet. But there's nothing that you can say that is going to turn me away from becoming a preacher, because that's where my heart is, and that's where my soul and my dreams are. I believe I've been called." And the old preacher said, "That's what I wanted to hear. If I can't talk you out of it, then you've probably been called to preach. If I'd been able to talk you out of and scare you away, then the calling wasn't real." And I feel that same way about dreams. Things are nice. It's nice to think, I would like to be an actor. I want to be in movies. But you got to realize what goes along with that. There have been stories of people who were sitting in a cafe and a director saw them, thought they had the perfect look, the perfect voice, and came over to him and said, "I'd like you to come try out for a role," and all of a sudden they were a star. That has happened, but it has happened so seldomly when you look at the entire scope of how many people try to get into the movie industry. The truth of the matter is, most actors have a long road ahead of them. And it starts with not just getting into movies, but being successful enough to get a good agent. From there, paying your dues, working hard, having that thick skin when directors who are frequently brutally honest with you to the point of cruelty and telling you you're not right for the part, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too short, you're too tall, your voice sounds weird, there's something crazy and funky about one of your eyes when you talk. What's with that thing? Directors can be cruel. And it's that way for everything that is really worth it. So if you're willing to go through the work and the disappointment and the rejection to get to that prize at the end, if you're willing to do that and you know what you're getting into, then absolutely, my answer is yes, you should chase your dreams. Just do it with smartness, intelligence, and thought. Don't throw everything in the trash on a hope. You can get your dreams by being thoughtful and making preparations. And if you'll do that, and make sure that you do have a way to live while you're chasing that dream, I believe you'll get it, as long as you're persistent. So what's happened to me this week? Not a whole lot since the last time I recorded an episode of this. The places on my face that I had cut off, the skin cancer spots, are healing. I did find out last week that I'm going to have to go back and have more taken off. I don't remember if I mentioned that in the last episode or not, but I am going to have more taken off of those spots because they said they didn't get them all, or didn't get the entire area, and they're going to do the Mohs procedure on that. And I'm frankly very nervous about that because I know what the Mohs procedure did to my back, the big, huge area that was cut off of my back. I know what it did and what the scarring is going to look like, and I'm very afraid of this because this is on my head and on the side of my face, and I'm very afraid of what I've got to look forward to as far as that goes, because I don't know if I'm going to be happy with that. But the alternative is a possibility of them growing into malignant cells and spreading, so I can't do that. I've got to have every cancerous cell taken off that they can find. So that, I found out I've got to go back and do that, and we'll just deal with whatever that is. I'm a vain person, I'll be honest, but maybe this is a valley that I'm having to learn from, to learn that vanity is not a good thing and looks are not really important. So I'm willing to deal with that, and that's really kind of what has gone on for the week, other than finalizing the move that we recently had to do and getting some layouts done for work. It's about to be a busy season. It's slowed down for me a little bit right now, but it's about to be a very busy season, I think, from September to December. Probably going to be a very busy 4 months. So there's what's been going on in my life in the past week. And this week's positive review is Starbucks Double Shot. I like the vanilla. My wife told me about it not too long ago, and I know a lot of people already know about these. You just get them in the convenience store. They're cold in a can, and I'm not crazy about cold coffee at all. I like my coffee warm. But my wife told me about the Starbucks Double Shots as a good way to pop yourself with a little energy, and they're more tasty than the little energy drinks you get. The 5-hour energies just really don't do it for me. Kickstarts I like from time to time, but it seems like this Double Shot kind of gives me the kick I need immediately. It's just got a lot of caffeine in it, I think. And I like the vanilla flavor. That's the flavor my wife suggested that I get. So I haven't tried any of the other flavors. Vanilla just seems to work well for me, and I'm able to guzzle it real quick, get it done, because like I said, I don't like cold coffee. But it is a tasty drink, and it'll wake you up. So if you're ever looking for a quick pick-me-up, you ought to give the Starbucks Double Shot, give it a shot and see how it does for you. That's this episode of Road Noise. I'm Michael Blackston. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I'd love to hear from you. You can do it via several ways. I've got an email address, and that email address is feedback@michaelblackston.com. You can also call me on the hotline at 706-408-7456. You can reach me and make comments right at the Road Noise podcast page, and that's at roadnoisepodcast.com. And there's a lot of places there that you can do different things. You can share us on social media. I'd love for you to do that. Leave the comments, like I said. You can even get to the iTunes page and leave me a rating and review there. So until next time, this has been episode 46. So until episode 47, which I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, I'm Mike Blackston. This is Road Noise. Thank you for sitting alongside me in the passenger seat as we learn to live life 1 mile at a time.